You know, so there's value in that too.
Absolutely.
You know, this one's, I'll just. Do you say anything to the young men or?
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. Yeah.
Into it, right?
Yeah. I guess these are really good seats,
They are.
right?
Just let them know what's going on.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to start first by saying thank you very much for inviting me to talk with you all and kind of share with you my thoughts, life, and my experience. So my name is Brent Russell, and I am an alum of Adelphi. Actually love this school and have some really great experiences there at Adelphi. And once again, I'm always ecstatic when I'm asked to come back and do something with Adelphi. And I'm the director of veteran services at my agency, which is the Mental Health Association of Nassau County. And it's a job that I received actually right here on campus in the veterans office over there in Haggerty Hall. It's funny. A guy by the name of John Davis, who created a relationship with Adelphi, came in and asked me if I wanted a job, because I happened to be there studying. I got the job, and I'm at this job now for 10 years now. And so I was able to kind of work my way up to the status of the director of veteran services. And so I served during Desert Storm from 90 to 92. And it was at that time where we were getting ready to go to war. And so I'm in my advanced individual training, and the command came down from the commander-in-chief to order some airstrikes. And so I'm in Georgia now, and this order went out, and everything changed. You could cut the air, right? It was just tense. And so somewhere in between airstrikes, our training just intensified, right? We got up, we trained a little bit longer, and I ended up hurting myself, right? I ended up blowing my knee out, and I ended up going in to get surgery, and then I ended up going to a medical hold unit, and I ended up being released from the military with an honorable medical discharge. Now, one of the reasons that I joined the military was because I didn't feel good about myself. And I wanted to find something that would make me feel good and boost my self-esteem. And my answer was the military, right? To become a part of the military, this big, humongous organization that is going to allow me to protect them, right? To protect the world. I also wanted to get out of my neighborhood. And I wanted to get an education, right? And so it was those three reasons why I went in. Needless to say, my father was in the military, so it is part of my family. And so being a part of the military meant the most to me because initially, rather, it meant the most to me because it helped me to feel good about myself, right? But being in the military, going through basic training, and learning some of the things that I was, that they teach us, which is to work as a team, to value your work, to value and respect leadership, to value and respect your brothers and your sisters who are in the military as well. All of that became a part of it, right? And so the minute I hurt my knee, right, the minute they put me in the hospital, those feelings of insecurity, those feelings of low self-esteem, began to rush back and kind of made me start to feel bad about myself again. And so there I was. I mean, I was in a medical holding unit at Fort Dix, New Jersey, probably for about, I don't know, maybe about 4 months, 5 months. It felt like it was like 4 years, 5 years, you know. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And while I was there, individuals who I served with were coming back from the Middle East. And they were wounded, they were injured, and all I could think about was, man, I want to fight. I wanted to fight. I wanted to be there with them. I wanted to put my back against their back. I wanted to protect them. I wanted to shoot my gun and help protect this country. And I just can't do it. And so what we call it in the veteran community is survivor's guilt, and that's a whole name for that. But that was what I felt, and it really kind of ripped my soul because I couldn't be there with them, which is what I joined for, you know. And so I got out on an honorable medical discharge, and honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so, I had some jobs here, had some jobs there. One thing I want to say, one of the things that's is very supportive for individuals who come home from the military is family members. And I understand that could be a puzzle for family members to put together on how to support someone who has totally and completely changed. But the support that my family gave me when I came home was priceless, right? And so, a supportive measure, let me just reiterate, is support from family and friends. And so, if you don't know what to do, what I suggest that you do is learn what to do, right? Perhaps go to different trainings that agencies host, like my agency. And there's a plethora of agencies out there that are in the community that talk about military culture, how to talk to individuals. There's peer work, there's clinical work. It's just, it's everywhere. And I had no vision. I had kind of lost my mission. I was dumbfounded. Let me just put it that way. And so me being a part of this team, right? Me having commanders telling me what to do and giving me missions, right? And and having focus, all of that changed, right? Because now I'm back home in this place where I was trying to get away from, with the feelings that I was trying to get away from, because that's what I was trying to do, right? But we know now, as we've gotten older, that the only way to get through feelings is to go through them, and so not to go around, right? And so that lesson right there, I learned, and it's what I speak with my veterans about. So individuals who come home with, let's say post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma, these are things that have traumatized an individual, and I kind of want to talk about trauma just a little bit. So I want to read for you a definition of what trauma is, right? So trauma results from exposure to an incident or series of incidents that are emotionally disturbing or life-threatening. When that trauma overpowers the individual's ability to function on a level of wellness mentally, physically, socially, emotionally, and spiritually, is when it needs to be addressed. And some of the symptoms that come from the different traumas, and there are a bunch of them in the military. And just so you know, you don't need to shoot your weapon and take someone's life to be traumatized in the military. There's just so many different ways to be traumatized. Some of the symptoms are flashbacks and nightmares, anxiousness and fear, difficulty concentrating, trouble sleeping, which goes to nightmares, hyperarousal, which is irritability, insomnia, quick to startle, and difficulty concentrating, social isolation and avoidance, which is a big one. Avoiding dealing with and going through those feelings that the trauma has caused. And people my veterans, including myself, find different ways to express their avoidance. Right? It could be shopping, it could be substance use, drugs and alcohol, which, by the way, alcohol is part of military culture. It could be sex. It could be whatever takes you outside of your feelings, so you don't have to deal with the feelings that you're going through. Overall intense negative emotions. I'm talking about symptoms of trauma. Inability to control your emotions. Right, anger is a big one. Strong physical reactions to triggers, and also detachment. And so these are some of the things that that we go through when we come home from the military. I can tell you a million and one stories why individuals decided they want to join the military. And not one of us ever thought that we would be doing anything other than what we signed up for. But the bottom line is, the reality is that when you go into the military, if you're asked to identify dead bodies, or if you're asked to bag dead bodies rather, then that's exactly what you do, regardless of what your MO was. You could have came in with an MOS of communications, right? Nobody ever thought that they were going to the military and would have to deal with military sexual trauma. And so there are things that happen in the military that you are not prepared for, things that have taken you by surprise. And so there you are, right? So now you have to deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you. And so what I do, what I take pleasure in doing, what I love to do, I'm a social worker by trade, right? And I got into social work because one of the, I did this research before I got into social work. I had a rehabilitation counselor, and she made me do this research, and she made me, think about it. And like, so I literally did some research, man, and I did an outline, and I did what I want and what I don't want, blah, blah, blah. And the thing that came up for me the most wasn't the money, because that's not even in the conversation, right? At least it wasn't in the conversation. It was about, part of the military person in me, because the military impressed me greatly, and part of it was this first responder nature. And I wanted to help people, and it was a part of my personality. So I became a social worker to help people, and I'm enjoying what I do, helping my veterans, right? So where I was broken at was that all of those years from once I left the military till probably about maybe 6 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago, was that I couldn't help my brothers. Stuck with me. I didn't even know it, right? And I couldn't help them. So at this time, I started as a veterans case manager, right? And then I moved on to a veteran peer support facilitator. And then I got promoted to program coordinator. It was at that point where I was over this program. Is called the PFC Drive Peer Support Project of Nassau County, which started out in 2 counties, and at this point it's nationwide. And we're very proud of that, by the way. And part of the requirements is that the state needs to come in and they need to do these audits. And along with the audit this year, they sent some people to do some research on the project. And a woman came to do the research on the project. So I'm telling my story, like I'm telling you guys, right? And she said, this woman was not a veteran, right? She was a civilian. And she said, Brent, even though you can't go back in time, you can't change anything, you weren't able to be there with your fellow comrades, what you're doing right now is you're helping your fellow veterans. And it was like a light bulb. It was like, teachable moment. What's the word I'm looking for? It's that moment when something just clicked. And I was like, wow. And so the relationship that I have with these guys, with my unit, in basic training and AIT impressed me so much. We call it camaraderie. It's something that we all continue to look for even after the military. It allowed me to kind of go to the next level with the work that I do. And it helped me to define what it is I'm doing. It helped me to get past those feelings of survivor's guilt and feeling bad about, my performance in the military and so forth and so on. And I'll tell you in a minute right now, I served less than 2 years. I got it on an honorable medical. I couldn't say that years before, because I was ashamed. So with all of that being said, it is an honor to help and to serve my veterans, and we do that in so many different ways. And so what I believe is that the ways to help my brothers and sisters, right, come up with some things that I think kind of fit the situation. My agency doesn't do all of these. Like, for instance, one of them is service animals. Like, we don't provide service animals at my job. However, I do have some friends who have service animals, and they help a lot. They help veterans to kind of stay focused, to stay in the now and in the present. Because oftentimes we relive the injury or the incident, and the animal is aware of that. The animal would nudge on. I have a friend who she served downrange, and she had a lot of trauma, and she would just like literally go there, but her dog would like pick up on that and nudge her hand and bring her back to life. And she's doing much better now, but the dog definitely helped her do that. Connection with the veteran community is something that definitely helps us to kind of get better and to do better. Obviously talking about it. Peer support, I believe in peer support 100%, and I also believe in clinical work as well. I believe in both exercise and diet, wellness modalities such as yoga and also Reiki and things of that nature. And as I said before, family support is something that is very good. And, and I always push community-based organizations as well. I don't have anything negative to say about the VA. I'm not really going to talk bad about them, but on the other hand, I offer the VA as a resource. It's a place where you can get some resources, whether it be mental, whether it be physical. If you have suffered from military sexual trauma, it doesn't matter what your discharge service, what your discharge is. If it's honorable or medical, you can still go to the VA and receive support for that. And so that really makes a difference. And well, I'm gonna have some cards here, but obviously nobody's here to take the cards. But listen, if you wanna get in touch with me in any way, my name is Brent Russell. I work for the Mental Health Association of Nassau County, and I am available. This is work that I love to do, and I have a department of some people who work really, really hard. We're all veterans, except one person, actually except 2 people, I'm sorry. And we make ourselves very visible in the community, specifically to reach veterans of all ages. It's that.
Thank you so much, Brett.
You're welcome. Well,
I have a question. What resources do you think we should have on a higher education level for those military and veteran students who maybe do have some sort of mental health thing that they need help with? Like, what should we be able to provide our students with?
I think you should be able, that's a very good question. I think it would be good if you were to be able to refer them to trusted sources, obviously, in the community for peer work and also for clinical work. I think you should be in touch with what's happening in the community as far as trainings, as far as different events that, like for instance with the VA, like there's something that's coming up on April 29th at the VA in Northport. It's called Vet Fest, which is basically a gathering of resources in the community in one place. And so that would be something that you could tell veterans about. And just knowing stuff like that, like Nassau County does stand downs twice a year at the Freeport Armory. And that's a place where individuals can receive resources and learn more about other resources, because there are so many untapped, untouched resources in the community for veterans, for us, that we don't know about. Sorry. Turn this down, but we don't know about it. You know, and so, and I would love to be that point of contact for you, you know, to kind of get that out to you in case you have a veteran in need and who needs some help, some support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We would also, I think, because we can't, it's been hard to kind of gather and convene the current veterans on campus. Obviously, you know, we have the yellow ribbon status, but I think it would be great to go to the community, maybe to these veteran affairs events where they showcase both like services, resources on Long Island, and different public and nonprofit groups and community groups to be there as well. If they do, they ever have universities or colleges come present, or
I don't.
Or is it just like nonprofits, community organizations?
No, if you have a resource, then for the most part, it should be welcome. But I could definitely look into that for you. I have no issues with that. Yeah, because, you know, they're yellow ribbon schools, so that's something that we could proliferate, you know, and get out there and see. You know.
And so do most veterans come back to their communities, the original communities, and how do they find the support? Do they tend to go to mostly to the VA or to Nassau County, to the public services? Or do they have like a case manager, someone that follows up with them?
So, I mean, I guess that really depends. A lot of veterans do come home. And you know, the interesting part of my job is I get to go out to the community and create these events, create these programs specifically to reach the population. And so we have that where, and that's a channel to kind of let individuals know what's going on, what's out there, so we can get them connected. So and then the VA was an entity that didn't play nice in the sand for a while. But they realized, number one, that they're over and undated veterans. That's the first thing that they realized. And they also realized that there is good work in the community. And so we have this informal relationship with the VA. I have VA social workers who call me and email me all the time and say, listen, I have a veteran, probably needs some peer support. And that's one of the things that we do. So we have peer support group meetings throughout the community. In Nassau County specifically, that's where the money's for. But then there's another PFC drive in Suffolk County. And so if the veteran comes to me, if the veteran is referred to me and they live in Suffolk County, then first of all, I'm not going to turn any veteran away from any of my peer support groups. But if they're in Suffolk County, I refer them to Suffolk County peer support, PFC drive peer support. And so the VA has opened it up a little bit and softened up a little bit. So now that they work with community agencies as well, so that becomes a referral source as well, because that's what we're told when we're in the military. You know, we're given a resource from the VA. The VA has turned into a reference point where they refer. So, families as well do great work. You know, a lot of times I get phone calls from children of the parent. Veteran and wives, and even husbands of the veteran who are looking for help and are looking for support. And so they're also another referral source. Yeah, so just kind of feel like if we continue to put the word out that you know, that there's hope for you, there's help for you, you're not alone. There's 1,000,001 resources. There's an agency called United Way, which has a plethora of resources for us, with empty classes,
Oh, really?
because we don't know. We don't know about it. And so, you know, we share these resources. We share. So, but I definitely think that we could probably strategize to kind of see how we can help the veteran population. I think that would be good.
And your team offers support to the families of veterans as well.
Yes, and we're building that part of my program out this year. We're gonna be doing more for family members because, you know, they're affected as well. And we're starting groups for children of veterans. That's going to be starting next month. We're getting ready to put on a retreat specifically for veterans and their family members. And that's going to be happening at the end of September. While we have them there, we're going to be at the Villa Roma Resort, upstate New York. I can't even pronounce the name of the town. And while they're there, we're going to be talking about not issues, but topics such as emotional intelligence. You know, how do you deal with grief, right, or loss of a loved one? How do you deal with losing a buddy in the military? And so we're looking to address the veteran and the family member with some of these topics. And then they're going to have some time for themselves and they'll be able to do whatever they want to do. So, but there are other agencies out there as well.
And I mean, we've heard this right before, that Long Island is historically a place where there have been a lot of members of the community that have served in the various.
Absolutely. I think Long Island is either the second or third largest, because Long Island is long, right?
Yeah.
Long Island, freaking long. And we have, it's either the second or the third most veterans that live, you know.
In the area, yeah. I mean, you think about like all of the memorials, you know, in Eisenhower Park, I mean, just in different places, and the VAs, and just it seems like a large community. And for some reason, I'm just thinking, you know, just from what I see online and stuff, and from news reports, it seems like an older population, right? That are, so we celebrate and you recognize obviously veterans of Vietnam and some other wars, but like the younger generation isn't as visible, or is it just me? I don't know. Like,
It's not you. It's not you.
Yeah,
it's one of those enigmas that we were just talking about. The younger generation. There's an organization called IAVA, Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans, something to that nature. Quote me on that, but it is IAVA, and they have been very popular with the younger veterans. There's another organization, can't remember the name, but they do things like these races and toggle and go through the mud and pull yourself up on ropes and all this sort of type of exercise and extracurricular stuff. The young people love that stuff, you know. But as far as them gathering in a room, or as far as them coming to a group, they don't really seem to be interested in that. They'd rather do something else. And so in that aspect, they're easy to attract and talk to. IAVA is more of an internet thing. Something called Red, White, and Blue. That's an organization that attracts a lot of young people. And so, however, the older generation is a little bit different, right? And at this point, a lot of the people, a lot of the veterans from the Korean War and World War II and so forth and so on have passed on, like it's really dwindling. So now, I believe a lot of veterans from the Vietnam era are present and have, you know, basically retired 5 or 10 years ago, something like that, and so they're present. So we do a lot of work with our Vietnam veterans. We do have some young veterans that we attract, but for the most part, those who are ready to talk, not only talk, but they're also ready to, which is something I admire about the Vietnam veteran population, is they're willing to help and avail themselves to younger veterans.
It's great.
Yeah. One of the things that we were taught when we're in the military is to help each other, to stick with each other, to leave no man behind, doesn't matter which branch they're in, always reach out to help. So to do that, we're actually getting ready to start a mentoring program.
That's great. So that maybe explains, we have a mysterious, we learned recently that we mysteriously had a chapter of the Student Veterans of America
Really?
here.
Tried to start that, it didn't work.
Yeah, it's like defunct.
Yep.
Yeah, and so we thought, let's try that. Then we learned that we already have.
Like the charter for it.
I think maybe we started it, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
And
It's possible.
it's not clear that it ever got off the ground in the first place, but we were wondering, should we catalyze that and try to get that going? I'm thinking that from what you say, it sounds like that may not work.
I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah,
Me and Christina tried it, and then there were some things that we had to kind of go through. Like, I think we had to have a certain amount of members, certain amount of groups. I think it was like maybe, I don't know how many members it was, but I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 consecutive groups where these members showed up. This number of members that showed up, and then we would be able to become charterized, for lack of better words. And we didn't make it, couldn't do it. But I definitely think it's worth a shot. I know Nassau Community College has an SVA.
is it active?
So I've been there, I presented there a couple of times, but this was about maybe 4 years, this was pre-COVID. Probably longer than 4 years. So where they're at, what they're doing right now, I don't know, but I would imagine they're pretty good. But you might want to, and if you want the contact, let me know. I'll see if I can get it to you. You might want to speak with the president of the SBA.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe they could give you some support. But then again, you got to find the veterans that's going to want to put the time in, and put the work in. But I think it's worth a shot. I would love to see it because it's definitely a place for support.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, the camaraderie and sticking together, and I would like, we could just, like, I imagine that once you got them going, they'd be like self-running. We wouldn't have to do
Probably
much at all, but just getting it going. I was at the mayor of New York City's celebration of Veterans Day, honoring the veterans, and there were all these students from Fordham University,
okay.
veteran students. They were there with their SVA t-shirts on, bunch of them, cheer and everything else. And I was like, wait a minute, how come we can't, we need to be doing that. Like, what's going on with that, right?
Gotcha.
So it works. I'm not sure, and Fordham's got a big center too, so we're a Yellow Ribbon school, but we'd like to aspire to be that helpful to veteran students here. So maybe if Nassau's is not working, we can partner with them. Maybe it's just a matter of numbers. I don't know.
Definitely something to look into. Even if it's just them passing along information to each other, something to make them know.
Yeah,
That helps a lot.
The veterans you work with, are some of them like you, where you came and you said, well, I need to go and finish my degree or do a degree? Do a lot of them aim to do that?
They're looking for, I have veterans who come through looking for work. I've had veterans come through looking for training, which is why United Way is really good. I want some training free. Some want to go to college and complete their degree. My program manager just finished her bachelor's degree. So absolutely. There are
Yeah.
some, but then there's some, so this is the thing. When I got out of the military, my GI Bill was nothing like the GI Bill now. It was a third of that. These young children today, the GI Bill, they're getting a lot. So a lot of them just come out and go right in. You know, they're not even coming to my organization, you know? So.
And maybe some enter the military with that intention as well, to get that support in order to finance college, which is so expensive,
Absolutely.
right?
That's what I did.
So it's like, you know, so this is a means to an end, and obviously having the goodwill to serve their country, and to gain all the experience and to be part of this institution, but also to later on, you know, get the benefits in terms of education.
Absolutely. I couldn't afford to go to college.
Mhm.
So I joined the military. May pay for my college.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's definitely a way to move up.
Mhm.
That's a pretty historic military for an education. And then if you're smart, the job that you're going to be in the military for will be connected to what you want to go to school for. They just flow right through. Pick up, you know, experience in the military, and then you go to school for it, and then you just keep it moving. That, and then also a lot of us join law enforcement, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying our best to make, well, internally in our unit, make our programs attractive to vets. And in particular, recognize that training that they've received through prior learning credit, and making a case for the rest of the university. Just like you went into a social work program, maybe you wouldn't want to go into a program like ours, but specifically you always knew you wanted to help people. You always knew you wanted to be a social worker, or if you were a nurse, wanted to go into nursing, that other units will also consider the training that you received prior to, during your service, as something that can be translated into
Like
university credits.
Yeah, I didn't know that when I came. Probably took that.
Yeah, you could.
I didn't know. But yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. So I have a question for you guys. Do you guys offer any courses that deal with training individuals how to work with veterans? No.
We don't in our college. I can't speak for others. If you would know in social work, but they,
School of social work?
I don't know. Who
I
was
think I heard
your, did you work with anyone specifically in like an advisement that had like experience with veterans in school social work? No?
There's nothing there I think there's maybe one course that dealt with veterans.
you could probably teach that course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Well, maybe.
But that's a need. That's a need.
As part of yeah, it could even be like a non-credit type of a course that's like a professional development course for social workers or anybody. I don't know. You would know more than me about who would benefit from that. Like, what's the audience and what would that look like?
Absolutely. If there's an individual who wants to work with veterans, you know, talk about that. We can talk about the different areas, the different things. And in the community, we talk about community stuff.
Yeah.
And mental health awareness, right?
Mental health awareness. Yeah.
Like a social science based course that can lead into social work. I would take the course.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Talk about military culture. Is it training that we do that I do, not just myself, but it's pretty well known. It's called Mental Health First Aid. And that's a course that has different categories. Like there's youth mental health first aid, there's adult mental health first aid, there's elder mental health first aid, and then there's veterans mental health first aid. And it talks about veterans mental health, it talks about signs, it talks about symptoms, it talks about cues where you could notice You know, one of the things that we know that sometimes veterans come into the college setting and they don't want to be acknowledged as veterans. So what do you do if you know if there's a veteran in you know, can you pick up a kid that doesn't want to be acknowledged? Acknowledged? Do you know why he's sitting in the back of the room? You know, and so it's pretty amazing. I think it's good information to get out there. I've always tried to get out to the community and talk about what to do and what not to do. Even though there's no cookie cutter recipe, there are certain things not to say, certain things not to do, you know, certain positions not to put individuals who have served in that would help you to, as a teacher, to teach them, right, and to get through to them. And then, you know, as a provider or a therapist, how to get through to them, you know, to the point where they receive some help, where they get some help. You know? So,
Okay, we're gonna figure something out then.
I'm
sorry, you said so.
Oh, man, you didn't go about that on that. All right, great. I appreciate you guys. I really do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brent, for coming and sharing your experience, your expertise, your life story, and really we're inspired by all your work over the last couple of decades and what you continue to do. And thank you for coming back to Adelphi every time you.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it. I sat on the campus for about half an hour, just
Yeah.
enjoyed myself the
Oh.
whole time. So I love
Yeah,
it.
it's great.